And President Trump is trying to reshape the world, but meeting some resistance along the way. Let's talk to David Dunn, Professor of International Politics at the University of Birmingham. David, welcome back. Good to see you. President Trump obviously dominating the news headlines every day, pretty much since he took power. But at each turn, as we've been reporting, whether it's on tariffs or sackings, he's forced to pause, isn't he, or row back. I mean, is this going to define the coming months, or will he eventually get his way?
Well, despite those legal attempts to try and stop him doing his worst through executive orders, the executive orders are actually quite effective of achieving what he wants to do, which is disruption, dislocating and damaging the agencies that he has targeted. So if you take, for example, the aid agency, 94% of the staff have been told that they're laid off, and major projects in Sub-Saharan Africa have been denied their funding. So even if they're restored by the courts, they have already had the impact of having a major disruptive effect in Africa. And of course, that's partly why he's doing this. He's playing to his base. He is delivering on his promises to actually put America first. And if that means abandoning allies, breaking trade rules, and abandoning the poor and the sick in Africa, that's what he wants to do.
International condemnation of President Trump's foreign policy plans on Gaza, and as you allude to, his defenestration of US aid has been widespread. Does it really matter? Does the Trump administration care what the international community has to say?
I think he regards it as a badge of honour that the international community responds in this way. As far as his mind is concerned, the way in which he views the world, he is putting America first. And if that annoys foreigners, that seems to reinforce his idea that he is pursuing this very, very narrow definition of what benefits America. And of course, his largely supportive voters are actually increasing their support for him. So we see Donald Trump's opinion poll numbers going up as a consequence of this action, which makes the international response one that isn't just a response to Trump, it's also a response to the new America that we see in this time period.
He isn't an autocrat, though, is he? I mean, there are checks and balances in the United States Constitution, aren't there? There is resistance there somewhere, isn't there?
Well, that certainly has been the case for the last 250 years. But what we see in the way in which Donald Trump is exercising power is that he has more power than George III ever dreamt of. And actually, Trump bringing his Wall Street experience, so his real estate experience to the table, is trying to disrupt the constitutional settlement and to actually evade the checks and balances. And actually, he's been very effective in doing so. As I say, despite the fact that there are laws that govern what he can do with regard to the way in which federal money is spent, he is using executive orders to actually effectively ruin the way in which those programs are financed. Yes, there will be legal challenges down the road, but before those can take effect, he has had an impact by the executive orders. He has a compliant House and Senate. Even people there who may be inclined to not support him are under threat of being primaried using Elon Musk's money, and therefore they are supine. The Supreme Court is issued a statement saying that he is exempt from prosecution while in office, and therefore he has no block from the courts. The press have paid him damages when they needn't have done so under the First Amendment in order to actually not have a hard time as a consequence. So America is meant to be the system of checks and balances and ways of blocking the power of a rampant executive, and yet Donald Trump in his first 2.5 weeks has demonstrated that there were very few limits on his power to actually disrupt and dislocate the way in which the federal government and American foreign policy have been characterized, really beyond living memory.
David, good to talk to you. Thanks very much for that. David Dunn, Professor of International Politics at the University of Birmingham.